Final race of the day here at Donington Park, and we've saved one of the best till last. The Ginetta G40 Cup Championship decider, and a thrilling battle that's going right down to the wire between Rob Keogh and Chris Salkeld, with Daniel Morris still a contender as well. I'll give you the grid first before we start talking points. Morris then on pole, with Chris Salkeld alongside him on the front row of the grid. Then Rob Keogh, who was leading the championship going into race 2. He is third, Bill Forbes is fourth. Then Giles Dawson and Roy Alderslade, fifth and sixth on the third row together, with Chris White and Craig Cornick sharing the fourth row of the grid. Row number 5 then, rounding out the top 10, the top 2 Chairman's Cup drivers, Ian Duggan and Martin Wills. And just outside the top 10, another 2 Chairman's Cup drivers, Mike West and Julian Wantling. Then on the 7th row of the grid, Ron Lynn and Mark Lee, who rounded out the top 6 in Chairman's Cup last time out, ahead of Mark Sansom and Neil Wallace on the 8th row. Row 9 for Robin Grimwood and Sean Fleming, and the 10th row of the grid for Jimmy Thompson and Daniel Smith. On row 11 will be the last of the finishers from race number 2. That's John Wall. Gary Wager was a non-finisher, so too Charlotte Birch and Richard Smith, who should be at the back of the grid. So, coming into the second race earlier on today, Chris Salkeld was 3 points behind Rob Keogh. In race number 2, Salkeld finished second and Keogh finished third, which means that Salkeld would have taken 4 points out of him, except Keogh had fastest lap, which is worth a point. So, 3 points the advantage in that race for Salkeld. He was 3 points behind. We haven't yet had official confirmation of this, but even my rough mathematics tells me that they are level on points, or as near as damn it. So it's within a point either way. It's winner takes all between the two of them, because at the front of the field there are quite a few points difference between each position on the track. So whichever of those two finishes ahead will take the title. 21 degrees ambient temperature here late in the afternoon. Humidity continuing to increase though, 76% humidity, but those clouds that have been threatening rain all day have not delivered it yet. I'm reasonably confident that they won't deliver it in the next 20 minutes or so, or 15 minutes really. This is a 15-minute race for the Ginetta G40 Cup, and the championship battle between Salkeld and Keogh going down to the wire. And actually Daniel Morris could yet, if they take each other off, could yet win the championship, because he is less than 30 points behind, and with 36 points available per race and no dropped scores in this championship. In theory, if Salkeld and Keogh don't finish, Morris could be the champion if he's somewhere inside the top 2. So it does look as though Daniel Morris will need outside assistance to win the championship, but with Keogh and Salkeld tied on points, the chances of them both reaching the end of this race suddenly deteriorate slightly, if you see what I mean. None of them suggesting anything dirty or untoward will happen, but they're going to be going for every inch on the track, and that might just result in a little bit of paint being swapped. So Keogh is the orange and black number 35 car, he starts third. Salkeld, the white, black and purple number 11, who starts second. Daniel Morris, the outside bet for the championship, on pole position in the blue and black number 31 car. 15 minutes to decide the outcome of the championship gets underway now, with a good start made by Salkeld from the outside of row number 1, and he should be able to snatch the advantage down to Redgate Corner for the first time. Yes, he does. Daniel Morris in second place, and just as in race number 2, Bill Forbes, the red and black car, challenging round the outside into Redgate Corner. Rob Keogh drifts out wide though, and through on the inside comes the 95 machine. Through has gone Giles Dawson, and Rob Keogh out on the dirt then, the joint championship leader, plummeting down the order. He'll be towards the back end of the top 10 by the time they get through the Craner curves, and that has handed the advantage firmly to Chris Salkeld, who is actually in the race lead anyway. So Salkeld looking good in the early stages here, but Rob Keogh, we know, has the pace to start gaining some places back. He needs to do it quickly though, before these two escape up front. So Salkeld leads the way then. Morris in second will not give him an easy time. He's going to want to get through, and get through as soon as he can. And he's going to try and go right round the outside at McLean's Corner. That'll give him the outside line again though for Coppis. Keogh barges his way up the inside of Ian Duggan, I think that was, the number 8 car in the background. But Daniel Morris, I think, might go through here around the outside of Salkeld. He's got the race lead back again through Coppis Corner, and Daniel Morris in feisty mood here at Donington Park this afternoon. He must realistically be in the top 2 in this race, regardless of what happens to the other 2, to have any chance of the title. Salkeld knows that, and so it may be safer for Salkeld to settle for second, but Rob Keogh is coming. Rob Keogh is into the top 6 again now. He gains another place on the inside line there. That was on Craig Cornick, I think, so that would have been for 5th place. Yeah, 5th position now for Rob Keogh. So he will be on terms with the leaders, I think, before too much longer, except he's got a car on the inside of him that almost makes contact with him. That was the number 32 of Craig Cornick trying to come back at him. And Rob Keogh was turning into the corner regardless, so it's a good job that the Cornick car suddenly disappeared from the inside line. Ian Duggan is next, except he's not anymore, because up the inside of him goes Roy Alderslade, and they're fighting for the Chairman's Cup lead in this race, and that is a change of position. Alderslade started in front, but clearly got shuffled out of line a bit at the start, so he's ended up having to come from behind to reclaim the class lead. Behind them, meanwhile, Martin Wills, that is, dicing away with number 93 behind him. There are lots of energetic cheers coming from the spectator area there as the leaders come through. It's a great vantage point, that, and very close to the paddock as well, so that's where a lot of the friends and family tend to hang out to watch. And I'm pretty sure that Daniel Morris, Chris Salkeld and Rob Keogh's friends and family have all congregated, possibly not at the same bit of the racetrack, maybe, but they'll all be watching on from the side of the circuit with bated breath as Keogh now pulls up alongside Bill Forbes for 4th position. And was he about to go through? He's on the outside line, but it doesn't matter, he's got him. So Rob Keogh, the orange machine, into 4th, and crucially, he's got there before the leaders have escaped too far up the road. The target car is Chris Salkeld in 2nd position. There's only one other driver between them now, and that's Giles Dawson. Giles Dawson, who has had a pair of 5th place finishes so far this weekend, so in theory, shouldn't be as quick as Rob Keogh, but he's going to defend this place, I'm sure of it. Driving down the inside line into the chicane, and Giles Dawson in the all-white number 95 car. Is he going to be able to fend off Rob Keogh for long enough that the top two pull away? That's all that's really necessary here. Rob will not want that to happen. He's in behind. There's no gap on the inside, though, so he goes to the outside line instead. Keogh has the speed. He has the time at the moment. He can afford to take his time. He's up the inside. He muscles his way through. And Bill Forbes will follow him past into 4th position. That was a robust move, I think we'll call that, from Rob Keogh. But I guess there was a gap there. He just made it a little bit bigger as he went for the apex and did move ahead of the number 95 car, which is now under pressure from Craig Cornick in the 32. And they're both running ahead now of that Chairman's Cup battle. So, game on now. The gap, the starting point for Rob Keogh. He's 1.2 seconds behind Salkeld, but he's just set the fastest lap, which is worth a point, but it doesn't matter. Even with fastest lap, he needs to finish in front of him and dive up the inside there. Ian Duggan nearly losing a place to the 95 car of Giles... no, not Ian Duggan, sorry. Yes, Ian Duggan, isn't it? So Giles... 95 Dawson has lost a bit of ground there somewhere. My timing screen has him in 5th position, but he quite clearly isn't, so he's dropped down the order slightly somewhere from the start-finish line to the first corner. So through the old hairpin they go again, and the number 8 car of Ian Duggan now under pressure once again up the hill. Yeah, that is definitely 95 Giles Dawson, who crossed the line in 5th and is now down to about 8th position, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. Whilst we were focusing on the race leaders, and he is now going to get that place back again up the inside into McLean's corner, as off into the gravel, unfortunately, has gone Richard Smith. That looks like it's the old hairpin. The car is definitely beached. I really hope we don't get a safety car, but I fear that that might be incoming. 10 minutes left on the clock, so there is time, I suppose, to get that cleared up and then let the race continue, but the race is developing nicely at the front because Keogh is quicker than Salkeld, who's quicker than Morris in the first sector, and in the second sector it's the same story, but Rob Keogh with a purple middle sector is going to be with them, I think, anyway, by the end of the lap, regardless of whether or not we get a safety car. Down the hill into the Melbourne hairpin. Up the inside line is looking Martin Wills on Ian Duggan there, further back in the fight for 2nd place in the Chairman's Cup, but Martin couldn't come through from that far back, and in front of them, running out wide, was Roy Alderslade, I think that was, wasn't it? And he might, yeah, he's going to lose that place, I think, to the recovering Giles Dawson. So Dawson started the lap 5th, dropped down mysteriously to 8th, and is now trying to get 6th place back away, and I think he should get it on the exit of the corner. Carries more speed onto the pit straight, but it's not a done deal. He's on the outside line into Redgate corner. And so Roy Alderslade, already leading the Chairman's Cup. The 95 car is not a Chairman's Cup car, it's the numbers 8 and 44 that Alderslade is really worried about. And so he kind of affords to let Dawson go, which he does now on the exit of the old hairpin, and then they're all scrabbling for track position behind as Ian Duggan had a run on Alderslade, but nowhere really to go with it, unfortunately. And that's good news, a live snatching operation down at the old hairpin, so they don't need to throw the safety car. It was far enough off the road, that car, that they were able to cover it under yellow flags. Hopefully by the time they next get down to that part of the circuit, it should be out of the way, so no need for a safety car. The race can continue. Car 8, Ian Duggan, being warned about exceeding track limits, but he's not really worried about that at the moment. He's trying to get up the inside of Roy Alderslade again for the Chairman's Cup lead. Ian Duggan he came into the weekend third in the championship. Roy Alderslade already pretty much confirmed as the champion. So that's just a battle for bragging rights now. Leading trio you caught a glimpse of there, getting closer together again. Rob Keogh improved upon his fastest lap, so he's further secured that bonus point, and he might be about to do so again on this lap because he set a purple first and second sector. But as I said, that won't actually make a difference because for finishing in third position, he will score 4 points fewer than Salkeld in second. So he needs to overtake him. Contact over the hills, but a moment there, I think, for Giles Dawson because Roy Alderslade's back up the inside of him. And Martin West up the inside of Ian Duggan, who spins down to the hairpin. And Ian Duggan to the right of shot. I don't think he was collected by that second car. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, it's all kicking off. Daniel Morris, Chris Salkeld and Rob Keogh as one as they go through the Goddard's hairpin. Hopefully those cars all get themselves going again at the Melbourne hairpin, but with half of the race gone, the top three are together and it's side by side almost for second place between the two drivers tied for the championship lead. And Rob Keogh goes from the outside line to the inside line and just about Chris Salkeld fends him off. He has it all locked up. Keogh goes round the outside of him though, wheel to wheel on the extra Redgate corner, but Salkeld has done enough to hang on, and this is why I am not counting Daniel Morris out of this, because if Morris wins and these two don't finish, then he's the champion. So Salkeld and Keogh, whilst they're really preoccupied with each other, they need to make sure that they both stay on the road, but that was very, very close indeed. I'm pretty sure there was a bit of contact going into Redgate corner, but Salkeld holds sway and maintains the race lead. This is for the championship then. It's as simple as that. Whoever finishes in, at the moment, second place that they're fighting for will be the champion, and Rob Keogh, looking to become the first ever double champion in the Ginetta G40 Cup, has a good run round the outside of McLean's corner. Salkeld was never going to let him have that though, and then defends the inside again into Coppice corner. Keogh on the outside looking to try and get the exit speed onto the back straight. This is fantastic racing, inches between front and rear bumper as they head down to the chicane. Rob Keogh looks to the inside, looks to the outside. Salkeld didn't really need to defend there though. Let's hope that that tight line doesn't hurt him too much on the exit of the chicane. No, pretty evenly matched actually on the run out. Keogh, in fact, a bit scrappy there, took a bit too much curb, drifted out wide. This is handing the race victory on a plate to Daniel Morris, which is really the bare minimum requirement for Dan Morris. But he wants to try and win it by the most comfortable margin he can, and then just leave these two to deal with each other really behind. Bill Forbes is also starting to catch Salkeld and Rob Keogh now. Then in fifth is Craig Cornick. Then this is the fight for sixth place coming towards us. Martin Wills on the inside, and Giles Dawson, who's been up and down the order like the proverbial yo-yo in this race, and he's on the way back down again now because he's down to seventh place, having briefly, I think, got himself back into the top five a lap or so ago. He can't see anything out of the right-hand side wing mirror because it's pointing outwards, not inwards. The left-hand side one is functioning, I suppose, but he, at the moment, is more focused on what's going on in front rather than behind. Behind him, though, is Roy Alderslade. In front of him was Martin Wills, but he's now in the rear-view mirror because he goes up the inside with a nice move into Redgate corner. Sixth position now belongs then to Giles Dawson. So that was not a move for position within class, though. They're running in different classes, those two. But Giles Dawson will very much feel that he should be racing with the overall front runners rather than the Chairman's Cup leaders, who are now back to a nose-to-tail situation now, with Wills just ahead of Alderslade, and then the 83 car, I think, is the one behind them, so that's Chris White, and he is not a Chairman's Cup driver either. So anyway, back to the fight for the championship, and Salkeld, for the second lap in a row, having to defend this second place into Coppice corner. You can go in on the tight line there, but you need to make sure you don't run wide on the exit. He did that nicely, and actually he and Keogh end up taking much of the same sort of line, and therefore much of the same sort of speed out of the corner. Along the exhibition straight, Salkeld again, though, just daren't leave the door open into any corner, regardless of how unlikely it is that Keogh can execute an overtake there. He just doesn't want to give Keogh the inside line, because Rob, especially as we get later into this race, will get more and more desperate to make the move. 4¼ minutes left to go. So they should have time for a few more laps. We got 9 laps in yesterday, and that, I believe, was not a safety car interrupted race. So as long as we don't get a safety car today, we should be on for minimum 8, hopefully 9 laps. This is the 6th that they're about to complete. Here's a screech of tyres in the background, but it wasn't one of our front runners, I don't think. Out of Goddard, and Keogh just dropping back a little bit on this lap. But I was about to suggest that in the previous race, Keogh did seem quicker than Salkeld. And it was only really because Salkeld and Keogh set to battling each other that Daniel Morris was able to hang on to the race victory. But this time around, Salkeld seems to have the measure of him. Now, at the top of the screen was car number 44, and that's Martin Wills, and he's no longer where he should be, basically. 83 is also plummeting down the order. We believe that Wills had a spin at the Melbourne hairpin, and I wonder whether or not he may be tangled with Chris White, because they were running together, and Chris White's gone down to 18th place, whilst Wills has gone down to 12th. So it looks as though those two may have made contact at the Melbourne loop, but we'll piece that together if we can. Not of huge significance as far as the championship's concerned, but it does take Wills out of the lead battle for the Chairman's Cup, which sees Alderslade now nearly 4 seconds clear of Ron Lynn, who's moved into second place. Then number 9, which is Mark Lee, with Ian Duggan right behind him. So that's the fight we're watching here, really. 2nd, 3rd and 4th in Chairman's Cup. Ron Lynn just ahead of Mark Lee, who's just ahead of Ian Duggan. And then Jimmy Thompson coming through from the, well, towards the back of the grid at least, 19th on the grid, after he had a very slow start, didn't he, in the previous race, I seem to remember, and then had a spin at the chicane. So Jimmy Thompson should be able to clear these three. He's been on front-running pace this weekend, but doesn't really have the results to show for it. 6th yesterday, and only 19th this morning after, as I said, that spin. Back through the chicane. At the front of the field, it's much as it was, really, about half a second, just less than half a second between Keogh and Salkeld. In the other order, Salkeld's still in front. Here comes Thompson up the inside of Ian Duggan. Into the Melbourne hairpin, he's got him. And now sets after Ron Lynn, and a spin this time at the chicane for Mike West in the Assetto Motorsport number 42 machine. Not sure whether that was self-inflicted or whether he had some assistance, but he rejoins. So 2 more laps to go. Leaders have gone through, with Rob Keogh setting another new fastest lap, 1:48.792, to be within a quarter of a second now of Chris Salkeld. And they're both actually keeping pace. In fact, they were quicker than Daniel Morris. Daniel Morris was almost a full second slower than Rob Keogh last time around. Not sure if Daniel's genuinely losing pace, or maybe thinking that he can back these two up into each other. But here they come, look, through the old hairpin. And Chris Salkeld is not going to be able to just coast home here. He will have to defend again. Rob Keogh has regrouped. He's had a lap or two to reassess the situation, maybe cool the tyres down, cool himself down probably as well, because I reckon he was getting a bit hot under the collar when they were racing side by side a few laps ago. Now he's back in slipstreaming range. But where does he make the move? Because all of the traditional overtaking opportunities Chris Salkeld appears to have covered. They're both continuing to inch back onto the tail of Daniel Morris as well, who may yet have a part to play in this. The three of them turn into the Foggy S's, and back out onto the Melbourne loop again. And is Keogh going to be close enough to have a go into the hairpin? Well, Salkeld thinks he might be, so he drives down the middle of the road. Keogh to the outside, into Melbourne, gets a better exit, but he just can't quite tuck underneath the number 11 car, but they're almost touching each other now as they go towards Goddard's, and once again Salkeld driving super defensively so as to keep Keogh at bay. 5-second penalty for track limits for Ian Duggan, so that'll drop him even further down the order after the moments that he's had anyway. But here is the fight for the championship, and has Rob Keogh got on the inside? No, Chris Salkeld, as they go on to the final lap of the season, manages to fend him off. There's a car in the gravel, though, up at Coppice. That is Mark Sansom. And Rob Keogh goes for it up the inside of Salkeld and goes through at Redgate Corner. Rob Keogh timed it to perfection. There was just about room, and that was, despite a bit of paint being traded, generally speaking, a firm but fair move. And now Chris Salkeld has less than a lap to retaliate to try and get this championship lead back. Through the Craner curves they go. Rob Keogh is in front of Salkeld, but there's still time for Salkeld to retaliate. Out of the old hairpin, they both run out wide. They're both giving it absolutely everything. They don't really care about track limits penalties now. There's a championship on the line. A full season of racing has come down to half a lap now, and Rob Keogh has got himself back in front, but Salkeld with a good run through McLean's. He's very sideways. Did he hang on to it? Yes, he did. Now into Coppice Corner. A good exit from here is absolutely pivotal for Chris Salkeld to try and get himself back ahead of Rob Keogh. They both clobber the curb. They're in a yellow flag zone through there anyway, so no overtaking at that corner. Not that that's a genuine overtaking opportunity anyway. There realistically are only 2 more of those left. The chicane that they're coming up to is not one of them, but the 2 hairpins coming up after it, Melbourne and Goddard's, are. Salkeld needs to send it through the chicane. Nicely on the way in, nicely on the way out. He's quicker than Keogh off that corner, and Rob will have to defend into the Melbourne hairpin. This is going to get interesting. Salkeld to the outside, dives back to the inside line. Can he get there on the inside? They're going to make contact, surely. Chris Salkeld and Rob Keogh banging doors, and Salkeld goes ahead. ahead. He was on the grass when he did it, though. I'm not sure if he'll be allowed to hang on to that. Chris Salkeld back into second position, and Rob Keogh will be fuming. He'll be spitting feathers at the wheel of the number 35 car. He's down to third. He's not going to get close enough into the last corner either. So provisionally, Chris Salkeld is going to come through in second place. Morris will win the race. Salkeld will be second, and pending any post-race penalties, he will be the champion with Rob Keogh third. But another race that is decided in dramatic fashion, a championship decided in dramatic fashion with only 2 corners to go. We've seen an awful lot of that this today already, and that's another one that will be discussed long into the night. I think Chris Salkeld takes the second position, and subject to confirmation, that should be enough for the title. A word to Daniel Morris as well, because he's had 2 wins and a second place this weekend. He did the maximum possible to try and close the gap on those 2, but he needed one more weekend of racing, really, and they won't get that, unfortunately. Salkeld and Keogh now. That was a hand gesture from Keogh to Salkeld, and I don't think he was waving his congratulations. So Rob Keogh making his feelings known. He will, I'm sure, make his feelings known to the clerk of the course as well. Is that another hand gesture at Daniel Morris? Don't know what Morris could have done. For Chris Salkeld, though, he's trying to savour the moment, because he, at least for the time being, is the champion. And we will, of course, see that move again. But it's the last lap. The title's on the line. It's win or bust for those 2. You can understand why he went for it. But Keogh was always going to close the door, and it was very similar, actually, to the contact we saw on the last lap of the mini challenge race a little while ago too. Morris then with the win, 2.4 seconds back to Salkeld and Keogh second and third, and Salkeld provisionally is the champ. Then it's Bill Forbes and Giles Dawson with Craig Cornick in 6th. Roy Alderslade 7th wins the Chairman's Cup for the 3rd time in a row this weekend, with Jimmy Thompson coming from the back to 8th. Ron Lynn is 9th and 2nd in the Chairman's Cup, with Mark Lee rounding out the top 10 and the podium finishes in the Chairman's Cup. Then it was the number 44 car that was next. Couldn't read them for a second. That was Martin Wills. He lines up in 11th place. Then 12th place for Fleming, 13th Ian Duggan after his penalty, 14th Julian Watling, and 15th place for Daniel Smith. Then it was Chris White, Mike West, Robin Grimwood, and Neil Wallace. And the only 2 non-finishers in the end, Mark Sansom in the gravel at Coppice Corner, and the number 4 car of Richard Smith, who went off at the old hairpin. That rounds out a dramatic Donington decider. What a day of racing it's been here at Donington. The Grand Prix circuit, I said at the start of the day, always produces exciting racing and dramatic championship finales, and we've seen several today, not just that Ginetta G40 Cup race, but the British Formula 3 Championship, the Ginetta GT5 Challenge, VW Racing Cup, that went down to the last race as well, and of course the British GT Championship decided in dramatic fashion. But the G40 Cup with arguably the closest championship battle that we've seen all day, because that was a genuine winner-takes-all fight between Chris Salkeld and Rob Keogh. The good news is they're both on the podium, so they're both going to come into Parc Fermé together. I would imagine we'll have a camera down there, and I would be fascinated to see what the reaction is, because Rob Keogh's not going to be happy. Of course he's not going to be happy. He's just lost the championship, he will say, in unfair circumstances. Chris Salkeld will be elated, but no doubt that will be a bit of a dark cloud over his shining moment. So Chris Salkeld and Rob Keogh's reactions I'm keen to see. Before that, though, I also want to try and see the last lap incident again to get a second view. I knew that Salkeld was going to go for it. I also knew that Keogh was going to defend the inside line. And here we go. I mean, there's a gap. There is a gap. When he goes for the move, there is a gap. And then Keogh starts closing the door, at which point then Salkeld ends up on the grass. But Chris Salkeld will argue that when he committed to the move, there was room. Keogh will argue, well, by the time he got alongside me, there wasn't room. And quite frankly, I'm glad I'm not the clerk of the course having to sort that one out. But that's my view of it. And I've never once heard a guilty racing driver, so they'll both have their own side of the story. But Salkeld got the second place, and points-wise at least, that is enough to win the title. And there's the confirmation. I think he's in tears down in Parc Fermé. Rob Keogh, I don't think, has come over to congratulate him yet, and possibly won't bother. But brilliant stuff there from Chris Salkeld. And these are the moments that I just love in motorsport. It has its downsides sometimes, but Chris Salkeld's pure joy maybe about to disappear. Oh no, that's Rob Keogh. I saw someone pointing at him angrily. I thought it might have been Keogh, but no, Rob Keogh with a smile on his face. So actually, maybe Salkeld. I think that was the confirmation Salkeld was waiting for, really, to see what Rob Keogh's reaction was. Hopefully, we'll be able to have a chat with these two as well and find out exactly what their reactions were. But Chris Salkeld with a last lap penultimate corner overtake for second place wins the Ginetta G40 Cup Championship in a winner-takes-all shootout against a former champion as well. Rob Keogh won the championship back in 2015. He's back again this year to try and reclaim it. And, well, there is the moment that Chris Salkeld has been dreaming of since he arrived here at Donington Park, probably on Friday for some pre-event testing. And he has beat Keogh in 2 of the 3 races this weekend. Keogh will be no doubt ruining that move he made against Daniel Morris at the end of the previous race, which cost him second place to Salkeld. Had he not done that, he'd have won the championship, as simple as that. Well, Martin's down there with Chris Salkeld, our champion in the Ginetta G40 Cup. Martin, what are his thoughts?
Fantastic win there, and you think you've got the championship too?
Yeah, we got the. We knew we had to finish second ahead of Rob for the championship, and we did it. I still can't. I'm shaking. I can't believe it.
So what happened in those closing laps then?
In the closing laps, I'll be brutally honest, I thought the race was finished. I didn't realise there was 1 lap left, and then Rob sent one down the inside, gave me a good old nudge into turn 1. Then basically I knew I had to get back after him, and then as we come into the Melbourne loop, there was a gap on the inside. I went for it, I got squeezed off, and then luckily I was able to get the job done and we were able to bring the car home.
Good. So we don't know for sure yet about the championship, but you think you've got it?
Well, I know that move was on for certain. It was there was a clear space on the inside. I went for it last minute, and then I was pushed off.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Congratulations.
Well, there you go. No argument with that, really, is there? Here are the highlights then of a dramatic title decider for the Ginetta G40 Cup, with Daniel Morris, Chris Salkeld and Rob Keogh set to do battle at the start, but it was disaster for Keogh at the start. He got muscled out of line by Giles Dawson at the first corner, elbowed onto the grass, and that sent him down to about 8th or 9th place by the end of the opening lap of the race. He would soon, though, start to pick his way back through, going around the outside of Craig Cornick in a brave move at the Melbourne hairpin. And he was into 5th position and chasing after the leading quartet. There was a spin, though, down the Craner curves, which saw the number 4 car of Richard Smith deposit itself into the gravel trap. He was beached, he was out of the race, but a live snatch meant the race continued unimpeded and allowed Rob Keogh to continue to make progress. More contact at the final corner as the 37 car got spun around by Neil Wallace. Thankfully, both of those two were able to rejoin before Salkeld and Keogh set to it for second position. Whichever of these two finished ahead would be the champion. And it was evident that they were both fully aware of what the points implications were. Roy Alderslade was involved in lots of battling on his way to a victory in the Chairman's Cup. The chicane was the scene of much drama over the course of the 15 minutes, but thankfully all of the drivers in trouble down there were able to get to the finish of the race, including number 43 Mark Sansom, for a while, until he understeered wide, possibly couldn't see where he was going with that loose front bodywork, and ended up in the gravel. Then on the final lap, Rob Keogh made his move, got to the inside of Chris Salkeld, took second place and with it the championship lead, but Salkeld wasn't done, went for it back up the inside into the Melbourne hairpin, barged his way through, but Rob Keogh was closing the door as well, and it was Salkeld that got second position, and with it the championship in 2019. So the podium presentation then underway, and drivers, first of all, Ron Lee in 3rd position, second place for number 33. Sorry, I'll start that again. 3rd place for Mark Lee, 2nd Ron Lynn, and Roy Alderslade with the race victory. And he is your champion as well in the Chairman's Cup, but that was more or less confirmed before we arrived at Donington Park. It was just a case of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, which he's been able to do, and the Want to Race driver has won the Chairman's Cup for 2019.